Welcome to E-commerce with Coffee, a podcast powered by Amber Engine, where we share e-com secrets for brands over your favorite brew. We start with the caffeine and then leap enthusiastically into behind-the-scenes e-com insights that led to the success of our guests. I'm Nate Svoboda, and I'm about to serve you up the best. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to today's episode of E-commerce with Coffee. For this conversation, I get to speak with TJ Hyland. He is the Director of Global Partnerships for Elevate Brands, which is an aggregator for successful Amazon brands. So we're going to be talking today about the aggregator model, some exciting stuff Elevate Brands has got going on, and also the importance of omnichannel for a brand in general. Also going to be talking today about what's been going on recently in the acquisition space, and then, how you as an entrepreneur can plan for a successful exit. So TJ, welcome to the show.
Nate, thank you for having me.
Really, really excited. Well, before we dive in, I know that, like me, you're a coffee guy. So what was your poison of pick today?
So I have my coffee mug, but I'm not a hot coffee person. I just can't drink hot drinks. So every day I get an iced coffee.
I'm the same way. First of all, I way prefer cold coffee. Are you an iced coffee guy or a cold brew guy, or do you not really care much?
I still don't think I've really figured out the difference between the two. They say cold brew is stronger and etc. Like, I feel like it all hits me the same. But what I am is, like, over the years I've realized that can't do the milk in coffee anymore. So I have to drink it black. But
and that's okay.
It becomes an acquired taste.
Exactly. And honestly, it is a personal strength to be able to drink black coffee, in all honesty, because then you're never going to be without the ability to drink it. But I'll need to connect with you offline about the powers of cold brew, because I have definitely been brought over to that side. Well, very, very cool. Well, TJ, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Really, really excited for our conversation because, if anybody has been paying attention to the Amazon ecosystem and they've not heard of, the aggregator space, they aren't aware of what's going on there, probably living under a rock to a point. Can you talk to us a little bit about Elevate Brands and sort of the aggregator model in general, why it seems to be on the rise in recent years?
Yeah, I think starting with the aggregator model, it's been around only for, say, 3 to 4 years, and what it is at the core is a high level business that acquires other Amazon sellers. So if you think back to when third party sellers started selling on the platform in, say, 2010 to 2017, 18, you never really had an option to exit your business. It was sort of under the notion that you would run this sort of in perpetuity, right? You'd make good cash flow, $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 a month, and a lot of times that's when the business was still sort of a side gig, and you had your other job, and you didn't really worry too much about it. It was easy. There was definitely a shift in sort of 2017, 18, where these Amazon businesses really started to stand up on their own, and they had the ability to be not only an Amazon business but an actual brand, right? It's not a business in many senses like you'd see in traditional retail or traditional commerce, but there was a big shift, and that's really when it went full on into the private label world. And what the private label world is, building brands that actually can live on Amazon or be born on Amazon and live off Amazon, right? Where you develop a following, where you develop people that are looking for those again. So when that shift came, those businesses have actual value compared to maybe commoditized products, or maybe compared to sort of the reseller model or retail arbitrage that was popular back then. So with these private label brands, they now have an intrinsic value in their business, but then from the aggregator model, the thought is, if I acquire 5 of these businesses, I can run them better with shared resources or more efficiently than if one business and one business and one business and one business. So the business, that model, it's nothing new. It's not a new model. It's just new to the Amazon world, right? The consolidation model has been around since, the dawn of time, right? But in the Amazon world, it now provided these entrepreneurs the opportunity to make some serious life-changing money, right? To exit their business at a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8x multiple of what their revenue is, right? And if you're running $1 million EBITDA business, which we can go into what all that all means, but like what your run rate is, your take home is, you get that, and you thought you were just going to run this business for in perpetuity. Now you have the ability to get paid out $4, $5, $6 million. That's life-changing money for most people, right?
Yeah.
So if not all people, right? So the aggregator model has really taken off in the calendar year 2021. Over $12 billion has been raised to fund these aggregators. Now, that's the slew of aggregators. There's, by last account, 75 to 80 different businesses that consider themselves aggregators. I think there's probably, last I looked, 10 or 12 that have raised over $350 million. So, there's definitely the upper echelon and then kind of the middle and then the lower. But everyone kind of has to kind of start somewhere. And, you have to prove yourself before you raise money. You have to continue proving yourself to raise more money. And that's kind of what Elevate did. So Elevate is a little bit different in terms of aggregators compared to some of the other ones. Ryan and James, who are two co-founders, started in 2016 actually as sellers themselves. So they were doing retail arbitrage, they were doing private label. I was talking with Ryan yesterday. He said he just launched 4 products at once and was like, I'm hoping one of them sticks, right? This is 2016, 2017. So things were a little different then. But the resale business, they did retail arbitrage, and they built that business up by buying and selling name brand sneakers, Nike and Adidas, going to TJ Maxx and Marshalls and whatever, buying those sneakers in the outlet malls and selling them online, and built that into a pretty nice business. And then in sort of mid 2019, they were trying to figure out what this is worth, what they could sell it for. And the problem was they went to a broker, and the guy said, you don't really have much, right? You don't own the brand, you don't own the intellectual property, you own the storefront, which essentially is worth something, and you own the inventory, and that's really it. So in the end of 2019, Ryan and James brought on Jeremy Bell, who's now considered a co-founder of Elevate, who had a 10, 15-year background in M&A, right? There were some other companies in the space that had just started the aggregator model, and Ryan and James felt like, we know how to operate Amazon businesses. We've been doing it. We've been shut down on Amazon. We've been, dealing with the suppliers and stuff like that. What if we acquire a business? Because that's the way to scale. We could launch our new products all we want, but the way to get to actually any sort of scale is to acquire a business and then build it, right? You have to get a business off the ground. So in the end of 2019, they acquired the first business. I think the EBITDA of that business was about $80K, which is far off from where we are today. But that's kind of the origin story. And I think over the last sort of 15 months or so, a little longer than that, or I guess 2 years, we've incrementally increased the size of the businesses that we've acquired, right? I think even in just the beginning of 2021, the EBITDA of that business was, 300, 400K, and now it's multi-millions of dollars. And I think we've been a little bit more conservative in our growth plan, just to kind of grow as we're comfortable, right?
Sustainably.
Going from operating 1 or 2 brands to now we have 30 something in our portfolio takes a lot to scale that and to do it efficiently and to make sure there's enough eyes and brand managers and marketing and logistics and all the things that you think you worry about for one business, multiply that by 30, and then when you go from 30 to 60 to 100, there's some aggregators that have 200 businesses today, and I could only imagine the complexities of how you operate something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I mean, I'm getting a headache even just thinking about that. But, well, it's interesting.
Probably getting a headache because I talked for the last 5
Oh,
minutes.
No, and you just gave us a great overview because you gave us the aggregator model, and then you helped us understand the differentiation points of Elevate, which, if I'm digesting those correctly, it sounds like it's an Amazon aggregator built by Amazon sellers for Amazon sellers almost, right? Like, I'm forgetting that you mentioned 3 people. I'm forgetting the 2 first founders, the initial founders.
Ryan and James.
Ryan and James, thank you. It sounds like they'd been through the ringer, right? And they thoughtfully came to a decision to do this for themselves. Now, something that pops into my head, right? I've never started a business, so any entrepreneurs listening to this probably will resonate more with you. I guess, do you, in your teams and your opinions and experience, do you find that most of the founders are looking to exit and they come to you? I know you said you have a referral program, obviously, or do you, does Elevate come in and just say, hey, look, we have the resources to make this something that, candidly, you may not be able to for years and years, and make them an offer that just gives them the push to go on to their next venture because they're entrepreneurial anyways? I guess, that was a long-winded question, but, I guess help me
I
understand.
know exactly what you mean. So from our perspective, there's no one answer to that. You have entrepreneurs who, 2021, we're seeing sort of what other businesses, maybe even their competitors, are being paid out and say, hey, I don't want to miss out on this. I started this as a side gig and now it's worth this. Let me cash out, right? Because a lot of times these entrepreneurs are not just entrepreneurs, they're serial entrepreneurs. This is not their first gig. This is probably something in the line. And guess what? They can go take what they've learned and the capital that they have that they didn't have and launch a new business, right? They probably bootstrapped that first business and it took them 4 years to get to $1 million. Now you take the couple $1 million payout you had, you put, maybe go on a vacation and then you start again, right? We've seen that before. But now they have a lot more capital and the learnings, which is probably way more important to skip all the things that tripped them up the first time and then to go on to the next level. We've had multiple businesses, or multiple owners, I should say, sell multiple businesses to us, right? They go, they sell, they start again, and they sell again, right? And that's that sort of serial entrepreneur world. From our perspective, it's a good mix. We do have a team that's reaching out to brands because, while they may know the aggregator world, they don't know what their business is worth, or what we would pay for their business.
And if things are going well, they may not necessarily be looking to sell, right? I don't know if this is in line with what you and your teams preach, but I've always heard that, if you're a business owner and you're looking to sell your business, you are not in a good competitive state to actually sell your business. The time you actually want to sell and exit and be bought out is when things are going well, and you may not even be thinking about that as a possibility.
It's spot on, right? Because when we acquire a business, we want there to still be levers to pull and opportunities for growth. And if you come to us and say, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore, right? Why? Because, there's a lot of reasons, maybe personal reasons, but a professional reason is like, maybe you've tried everything you could and you can't do anymore. Maybe you're constrained by capital, whole different story. And that's kind of why the aggregator model has thrived, because, we have capital to deploy. But, when we talk to a business and they say, I don't want to sell, or when they come to us and say, I don't want to sell 100% of my business, that's exciting for us, right? That means they still believe in the growth potential of that business. And I think that's another thing that kind of differentiates Elevate a little bit is we don't have to do 100% acquisition, see you later, walk off into the sunset. That doesn't have to be the case. We've done many instances where we do joint ventures or partnerships where Elevate will acquire, 60, 70% of the business, and then the original entrepreneur stays on in a working capacity to work with the aggregator, right? If you sold your business 100% to me, I can put a brand manager on there, but no matter what they know, they're never going to know as much as that original founder and their team, right? So from our perspective, if we can work with that owner for more than just sort of the discretionary period of a month or two, it's like if we can work with them for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and have built in a second exit for them, like a lot of them are not ready to sell because they don't know what they want to do, and like I said, it's the opportunity that still awaits them, right? Of like the growth potential, and maybe they were stuck on this capital. So instead of taking a loan and then still running it, it's like one of the ways that our partnerships work best is that you have things that you like to do. You like product sourcing, product development, dealing with the suppliers, but you hate PPC and finance and managing people, right? Like we have all those resources for the brands that we have acquired, whether they're shared or individually allocated. So there will be a working agreement to say, you, Nate, and your original brand owner, you handle this, and our team will handle that, and we're going to work in conjunction on that. And that makes a lot of entrepreneurs more interested in that because they have more control over the outcome of the business. Most structures, when selling your business, have some sort of earn-out function, right? growth after year one, growth after year two. And some of the other aggregators in the space are not performing that great. And these guys or girls that were expected to get another $1 million payday are not getting it. So in this instance, they're able to stay more involved, have more insight and actionable action items to affect the growth of the business. So
yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that.
different.
Because that was going to be my next question was, what percentage walk away and do their next thing versus, this is their baby, this is their brainchild, right? And they want to stay involved. I know that I saw a press release Elevate made recently, so I wanted to make sure we hit on this. Obviously there's lots of hype going on around, crypto and, all sorts of, decentralized assets. So, the press release, obviously now people that get bought out, businesses that are bought out, can have their exit payments made in Bitcoin. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what prompted that and, I guess how the response has been?
Yeah, so this has been in the works for more than a couple months. And it's what we call cash or coin, right? And what it really is just continuing to give the seller the ability to do what they want, right? We just talked for a couple of minutes on the flexibility that we offer on deal structure. Now it's also giving them the flexibility on the payment structure. If you want cash, fine, cool. If you want crypto, fine, cool. And we have the ability to pay out directly through that with an integration with Coinbase. And why we've done that is kind of meeting sellers where we know they already sit. We know that a ton of sellers already operate in the crypto world or have invested in the crypto world. One of the main instances of why we brought this up is a business sold to us early on, paid him out in crypto. Paid him out in US dollars. He went, started a new business, another business, built it to a point, sold it to us again. And the thing is, when he sold that first business, he actually told us in second conversations that he took all of his money and put it in Bitcoin. So
depending on when that happened, I'm sure he made away
Yeah.
pretty well with that.
Right, so that's 2 years ago. So hopefully he's still doing well. So he took the money and paid it. Went to his exchange and bought Bitcoin and let it sit there. Maybe he didn't need the money, right? So when this instance came up and he was going to sell his second business, it's like, well, what if we could pay you directly in Bitcoin? He goes, I would love that. And there's the instance of why doesn't he just take his money and go buy the funds again? The arrangement that we have with Coinbase is we've set up a Coinbase Prime account arrangement with them, which is essentially an institutional account. So as a business that's doing a significant amount of money paid out over the course of a year, you get lesser fees and better or higher limits, right? So if he just went to go and take his $5 million payout and jump it into Coinbase, he would take a while for the money to clear. The fees on that would be higher on an individual account, and he wouldn't be able to put the whole thing in at once. We're not paying his whole payout in crypto, but what we can do is take parts of it and pay that in crypto, right? I think a lot of people are looking at crypto in general just as a form of diversification, as you would with any other sort of stock or payout option. It's we are not giving investment advice. I'm not giving any sort of advice. It's definitely up to the seller to decide what they want to do. But like I said, this is kind of just meeting the sellers where they are, making things more convenient for them, potentially lesser fees for them, and just helping, right, giving more options.
Well, it's interesting. I had a conversation recently with the founder of a secure payments gateway, and one of the things he does is he empowers Shopify store owners and other e-commerce brands to allow consumer payments in crypto. And one of the points that he made was, who am I to say whether it's a valid asset or not? If somebody wants to use it and wants to pay with it, then who am I to prevent that, right? Make it easy for the person who wants something so you can build that relationship. So that's very, very cool. That's very, very exciting.
I think, sorry, Nate, just to your point there, how many storefronts have now adopted the buy now, pay later model, right? I've used it once, not because I thought I wanted to delay my payments, just because I wanted to try it out. And it was really easy for the next 3 weeks or every other week. It's like a $40 charge, a $40 charge. Like, cool, you guys are handling it, cost me nothing more, cost me nothing less. It just makes things a little bit easier. So, I know that there are statistics where, if you give that option, your conversion is higher, right? So, in the same instance of a crypto, I don't know if I would ever pay anything with crypto right now. But, I hold a small crypto balance, but, to have the option, right? And that's where I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that seller is probably going to come back to you, maybe not only because you'll pay him out in crypto, but because he knows that there's something that, is beneficial to him out of that.
For sure.
We touched on this very, tangentially. I want to make sure that we hit on it. So, obviously there are certain indicators, maybe I'll call them, that you and your team have of maybe this is a good business to acquire, maybe this is one that we should, not attack so aggressively or go after so aggressively. What are some things that are some of the best things that a business can do to make its brand more attractive for acquisition?
Yeah, the number one thing that we probably look at are our margins, right? And you want your margins to continue to be increasing. And it comes back to what you're saying is like when you're looking to sell, you might be too late, right? Not always too late because there's always things that you can do. But when you're on the way up, that's when you should be looking to sell. And that's what when people are building their second business now, it's this new term called build to exit. But you only really want to get your business to sort of 70% of where you think it could be, right? Because you want to, A, capitalize on that and you can still have a nice payday, but then B, leave the opportunities for somebody else. So from what makes it more attractive is, not a ton of SKUs, like, 1 to maybe 100, not a lot of variations, right? You have to think in terms of the aggregator model is, okay, you're one business and we plug you into the whole big picture. And if you have 10,000 SKUs, that's a ton of inventory as well for us to manage, hold, buy, etc.
And plus potentially competition internally with your portfolio.
Exactly, right? This is not maybe something a brand owner can do, but to talk about that, it's the competition, but it's also looking at, complementary products, right? So if you're in the dog food space or the pet space and there's a food product of dog food that we already own and you have dog toys and you have dog beds and you have this, it's like the buyer profile is similar between the two or the three, right, or four. The other instance or somewhat downfall is with Amazon, as we know, you don't own the customer, so you can't do the same thing. But what we're seeing as well is a lot of these businesses that are coming to market have at least some sort of D2C presence, small or large, but that's kind of an added kicker, right? Because what we believe is Amazon is the beginning, not the end, right? You might have created this business on Amazon or born on Amazon, which is another expression, but it shouldn't end on Amazon. You should be looking to build a brand, and that's really like the first bifurcation is, you should be focusing on building a brand and not a commoditized product. And you should be focused on the features of the brand to build the following. And once you do that, once you have that brandable product, it makes it a lot easier to expand to Walmart and Amazon International and D2C because you have people actually searching for your product. And when we talk about margins and we talk about costs and we talk about advertising costs in particular, it's like, how can you keep those advertising costs down? It's like because people are organically searching for your business or for your product.
Yeah.
From our perspective, if a product is sort of reusable or a multi-use product, like you order every couple months, that's nice, right? Recurring buyers, and then that's how you can potentially work with them on Amazon, and they can search for you on Google and find your D2C. So there's no cookie cutter answer to say this is good, this is bad. The one thing I do say is bad is black hat, right? A lot of people have dabbled in that in the past in terms of getting reviews to build rank and stuff, etc. And that comes out in the wash, right? Like we do a thorough due diligence on every business that we acquire, and be honest about it. Right?
So you mean the product listings that have 45,000 5-star reviews, and I can't even necessarily tell you what this brand is or where they came from.
Exactly, right? And how is it there? How did it? You've only been selling since June 2021, and how do you have 15,000 reviews, and why are they 99% 5-star? So the thing is, like, sometimes it's workable, sometimes it's not. But what I always say to every seller that I talk to, and any sort of podcast or webinar I do, is like, you only have one chance to make a first impression. And whether that's in terms of, the financial numbers you give us, or in terms of tactics you've done, or sourcing, or this, that, and the other, you give that over, and that's what we're taking as the truth until we find something. And, there's a story that we have where, some guy sent over financials. There was a ton of discrepancies. We went back to him and said, explain this. Came back a couple of days later with totally different financials. And the thing is, like, how do you know which is the truth?
Yeah, right. We're not just going to suddenly trust the second one now. It's like, okay, how do we know this isn't fake too?
Right. So, from what I say is like, you just have to be truthful about what you're doing. Like, if your business isn't not in a great position, put it in, get it to where it needs to be. Make sure you have all your ducks in a row before talking to someone that might pay you multi-millions of dollars for a business. You don't want to burn your bridges that you might have, even if there are 75 aggregators. You don't want to burn your bridges about the, minute little things about the financials not being accurate or being off, right? Because it does leave a taste in people's mouths of, well, if this was this, then that, and like what might we potentially find down the line.
Yeah. I never thought about that. That is interesting. I could see a lot of potential problems coming up with that. And you answered my next question, so we're gonna shift gears a little bit here.
Sorry.
No. It's great. I love it. Now, you just mentioned a minute ago the importance of not just being on Amazon, right? Obviously, a lot of brands will grow up on Amazon, but you have to build a moat to some degree, right? I've heard, some individuals have said the Amazon halo effect, which I don't know if that's a broader industry term, but they essentially just mean if you're on Amazon and then you're focusing on other channels, your performance on Amazon will organically help or augment your performance on other channels, right? Whether it's your Shopify site, a retailer, etc. And that goes both ways, right? Now, the most recent stat I've heard, 66% of consumer searches are starting on the Amazon search bar, right? Not Google, nothing like that. And a large percentage of these are coming to Amazon with a credit card on file and they have buying intent, right?
Yep.
So I guess help me understand, how in your mind does having a strong presence on Amazon affect performance off Amazon?
Yeah, so the Amazon platform in general, you can't compete with the traffic that it buys, whether it's organic or paid to your listing. The amount of the clicks and buys, with all the sort of nuances that Amazon has done for the consumer, has benefited the seller, even if the seller doesn't think that Amazon is benefiting them. Prime, right? Storing the credit card info, all these payment options that they offer definitely lead to, and like Prime meaning 1 day, 2 day shipping, 3 day shipping, all of those things lead to conversion. So being Prime eligible, being FBA, being an FBA, when you look at that compared to the D2C or the Walmart or the other marketplaces, it's everyone's having to copy what Amazon set, right? And it's really, they've controlled consumer behavior. I think back 10, 15 years when it's 5 to 7 business days and you're excited about that because it's not 2 weeks. And now it's like, I won't buy something if I can't get it tomorrow.
Yep.
It's like, it's kind of horrible.
It's become hardwired
it's changed it. But yeah, so like I ordered some things on Amazon the other day, and it was 4 things, and 3 of them came in 2 days, and 1 said it wasn't coming for 4 more days, and I was like, I would have never ordered it. Like I would have went down the list to find something that the same product that somebody else could have got for me, in 2 days. So I think just the importance of Amazon in that sense is they've controlled consumer behavior, right? And what they've done is really given the platform for businesses to become a business and become a brand. So when you talk about, how does that translate to off Amazon or Omnichannel? It's, you look at all these other softwares and solutions that have to cater to Amazon first and then either replicate that, right? Walmart is pushing for sellers, right? The problem with Walmart is they're not pushing that much for buyers, right? So they've seen a tremendous increase in the number of sellers on their platform, but from what I've heard, the number of buyers are not, it's directly corresponding to that. So, same thing with the D2C, and we talk about sort of the logistics side of things. It's, you can have a loyal following, and you can have to drive them to your D2C site via Google, via whatever, or via Instagram ads, right? And they can get to your website, but if you don't have the same shipping capabilities that Amazon does to get that product to them in 2 days, guess what? They're going to go to Amazon and search your product. They don't care that you're paying 15% fee plus FBA fees for this product, even if it's $2 cheaper than your D2C store, right? They want the product when they want it. So just taking what Amazon has built, which is something incredible, and afforded a lot of people a lot of money and created generational wealth, and sort of translating that across omnichannel. I think we still have a way to go before that's sort of on the same level, if ever. But the strides that have been made in the last 2 to 3 years have really pumped that up, and really made it something that is strategic, right? Because as for all the good that there is on Amazon as a third-party seller, there's always the risk, right? There's always the risk that you're over-invested in one vertical or one marketplace. And, we know that overnight, for whatever reason, if it's Amazon, if it's Black Hat, if it's this, if it's that, your business could be shut down for whatever period of time. And if you're relying 100% on this one marketplace, on this one income stream to operate your business, you might be sort of SOL, right? So if you diversify, and if you have, say, 80% on Amazon and 10% on Shopify and 10% on Walmart, it's like you can still have some cash flow to help operating your business, and while this other thing gets resolved.
This is probably, I'm going to preface this with, this is probably a totally it depends answer. Is there any, do the majority of the businesses that you end up, buying out, do they already have an off Amazon presence? Do the majority of them solely have Amazon, and then that's part of the value of Elevate is getting those resources to propel them off Amazon? I guess help me understand that a little bit.
It depends.
Called it.
Majority of the businesses have either dabbled with or start and have that off Amazon presence. And I think it really varies depending on what the business is. We've acquired a business in the outdoor space which has incredible branding, incredible brand loyalty, and their D2C store is operating fine, cool, and it's nowhere near 50% of their business, but it's nice, and people go to it and people search for them organically. There's other ones that we acquire where they've set up a Shopify store. That's it. Never made a sale on it. And it's fine, because that's one of the levers. If it's a brand that we think is brandable and growable, or if that's even a word, then we can operate that. It's just kind of pulling that first lever, right? Yeah. It all comes down to operational efficiencies. If I gave you $10 million, you could create the whole thing, because what it also comes down to is inventory, right? And that's where people, I think, struggle the most. I talk to sellers all the time who say, I want to exit my business. I did $1 million in sales this year, but I could have done $2 million. But I didn't. I stocked out in March and I stocked out in August, right? While I was waiting for my inventory to come. And it's like, well, if you had the capital, you could plug those 2 months, but then what else could you do? And what I used to help businesses expand internationally on Amazon. And I would always say, like, your international expansion should not take away from your operations on Amazon US. This should continue to operate here, and you should be in a good position where you should be able to have enough inventory to ship to Amazon UK and Canada and Germany and Italy and Spain, right? Like that should be on top of anything you've ever done. So if you're taking inventory from sort of guaranteed sales that you can make in the US to just plug over here that might not sell right away because you don't have the same brand awareness or you haven't figured out the slight nuances in those marketplaces, then you're hurting yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
You're turning down the heat on one to try and get another one started.
Right. Where I think your business has to be in a certain position to expand to those international marketplaces or Walmart or D2C, and omnichannel is not for every brand, right? There's some businesses or some products that just make no sense selling in Germany, right? Just not going to happen, right? And perhaps for you, like the translations, the conversions, the packaging has to change, and the electricals and all that. Like maybe it's too much of an investment, but also you should have your research done. right? If you know that that's something that you could do, you could have that built out from day one, not from a product perspective, but from like a product planning perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I just had another conversation recently. I'd never really thought about the inventory problem. But to your point, right? If you're, building this business, you're doing great, you want to start a retail relationship, and then you get a purchase order for $300,000, and you have to put 10%, 20% down on that. Not a whole lot of people have that liquid money. It's really interesting. You literally can sell the product, but you also cannot sell the product because you don't have the product to sell initially. So that's a very interesting point that you brought up.
Yeah, and I think there's emergence again in the last 2 years where a lot of businesses have realized, a lot of corporations, I should say, have realized that capital is the number one issue that either stunts growth or causes businesses to fail. And I think during 2020, or I know really during 2020 in the pandemic, while there was a lot of businesses that were booming because of e-commerce, there's a number of them that were not. There's ones, if you think even on the retail front, with all the success that we've seen on Amazon and marketplace sales, the retail front didn't. So like those businesses had to pivot. But how do you pivot? How do you learn Amazon? How do you do this? And it's like, okay, now those retail businesses might be back in operation. And now where do they get the capital to fund their online store and the inventory for there that they've seen good success on? And then the retail operations where, the traditional buyer still wants to go feel the product and hold the product and do things like that. So, that's where I think there's funding companies that help, give not loans, but you could have a loan, Amazon lending, that works, but it's not for everyone. But I think, that's kind of where the aggregator model sits, right? Like, if nothing else, we have capital to deploy, whether that's capital to buy these businesses or capital to grow these businesses. And those are the real two focuses, and A leads into B. And that's where, like, if you're somebody that still believes in your business, but you don't have the capital, it's like, okay, do you go get a loan, or do you look to partner with an aggregator like Elevate to take not only the capital, but the expertise and the team and the workload and sort of amplify that?
Yeah, to your point from earlier, right? If I'm the business owner, I don't want to deal with the messiness of HR and finance and all that garbage, right? I just want to sell the damn thing and make it. So, well, TJ, I think we could probably keep going for a long time on this. There's a lot more rabbit holes we haven't gone down, but if anything we've said has resonated, if somebody wants to reach out about Elevate, just have a conversation, what's the best way to get in touch with you or with the team?
Yeah, absolutely. You can send me an email. It says tj@elevatebrands.com or on LinkedIn, TJ Hyland. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So you can shoot me a message there and happy to chat, either connect with you directly or connect you with my team. And, always happy to have a conversation, right? Because I think the problem is there's just a lot of gaps. While aggregators are present and, to use the other expression, omnipresent, right? They're kind of everywhere now at every event and everything. It's like, I'll have an honest conversation with you. It's like, say, Elevate's not right for you, but, if you really want to sell, are your ducks in a row? Cool. Here's some aggregators that might be good for you. Here's some brokers that can probably connect you to different people. Or maybe you should focus on growing your business a little bit more, focus on, getting the tacos down and your margins higher, right? Or focus on this, focus on that. Or there's like a whole nother bucket of sort of, what would we call them? Sort of amplifiers, right? Like they'll help advise on your business and get you to that point where, you can take that next exit. All these different masterminds that, you might have had a product and you just stuck it on Amazon, now it's doing well, but you don't still really understand the whole Amazon ecosystem. I see it all the time. Like I was talking to a guy in the pet space and he kind of fell into it, right? Because he had created this product to help a different business and now it's selling, $1 million a month, right? And it's like really nice stuff. But he admittedly doesn't know the Amazon world. So it's like kind of just understanding where you are. And I think it's kind of taking a look back at yourself and saying, what do you want? And everyone's wants are different, so that's why I can't give you a straight answer. And everyone's business is different, even more different. Yeah. But it's like, have a conversation. I'm always happy to have a conversation. Figure out what you want. And I'm, not every business is right for Elevate, and I'll be the first to say that. But there's between the 75 plus aggregators and all the other opportunities, if you want to sell your business, if you want to have somebody invest in your business or partner with someone, there is somebody for you to get you to where you want to be.
No, that's awesome. And to your point, especially in such a rapidly evolving landscape as, digital commerce, Amazon, however we want to think about it, you need somebody on your team who knows what's going on, right? This is not the game to feel around in the dark until you find where you're trying to go, right? You want to make sure that you have the bench strength that has the capabilities and the skill set. So good point. Well, TJ, as the year goes on, as Elevate keeps acquiring more brands and you guys have more stuff come up, would love to have you back on the show and have some more conversations.
Absolutely. It's next time I need another coffee.
Yes, me as well. I got to go make another one right now, actually. We'll have a great rest of the week, TJ. It's been great chatting with you.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of E-Commerce with Coffee, powered by Amber Engine. If you haven't gotten your fix yet, be sure to get more e-commerce brand secrets on our website at amberengine.com. And don't forget to subscribe for more episodes.